legends that have been coming up, and we're expecting to see a little bit more at Houston with the Timo with the set. But for this round two, we've got ourselves two 1-0 matches, and we've kind of gone back to the classics, what we used to see, in Cash Cup 1 and some tournaments prior. And it's going to be Yuto piloting the Victor up against Suisei Seki on the Kaiser there.
Yeah, and it looks like we have just started this game. So we're going to be going ahead and taking a look over here. And this is going to be an interesting matchup because, I mean, Victor can move incredibly fast and can go incredibly wide as well. So you got to be so careful about, trying to maintain a way to remove the threats from Victor. And if you're not, as a Kaisa player, Victor can just run so incredibly fast and take the game before you even have a chance.
Yeah, and right off the bat, with the battlefields we've got, it looks like the Kaiser player Suisei Seki running the Dreaming Tree to get more of that draw generation. And it's going to be Yuto actually opening up with the Treferin War Camp. I really like that battlefield into the Kaiser. The +1 can sometimes make that difference for those spells, trying to get over that damage threshold there.
Yeah, and this is going to be the big thing as well. I mean, we're already seeing that the Kaisa player is going to be able to, potentially get some good points. But I mean, Trifarian War Camp is such a powerful battlefield to utilize here as the Victor player, because it can make a lot of the spells that Kaisa could normally kill a unit with, not be able to do what it needs to do.
Yeah, right off the bat already, Shiseki, with that Sprite Mother, scoring that 1 point with the Sprite, and now hitting over, taking out the little bird, the Soaring Scout. It's going to let Yuto ramp up, but I think with how fast some of these games can go, with how many low drop units both Kaisa and Victor like to run, these early points, if it's all kind of going just one way, does become a bit of an issue.
Yeah, and so we'll see how this will be able to pay out as well. I'm curious if the Victor player is at 1 point currently, because
Could
we
be,
did
yeah.
see a Soaring Scout that was in the battlefield being taken by the Sprite Mother. So we'll see what this is able to do. But I mean, the biggest threat here is going to be that Kaisa can move so incredibly fast with its accelerating units. You have things like Kaisa itself, Darius, Thousand Tail Watcher, and then you got to be mindful of the big removals like a Cathian Rain, or even a Time Warp, which can add a lot of points to the board state. And so as this Victor player, you got to really be careful about maintaining this board state, but it's going to be fun to see. This is going to be a great match.
Yeah, and so far, I think both are in a decent position. Yuto kind of starting to go wide a little bit. That's one of the ways you can deal with a Kaiser as a Victor, is just have so many different targets that what are you going to hit? You talk about the Catherine Rainbow, that hits 7 units. It's often a one of in the deck. If you're talking about the other spells like Void Seeker, Falling Star, it's one target, two target. And we're already seeing, what is it, 5 units, including the Sprite, that Sprite Mother for Yuto now generated. Suisei Seki mostly tapped out, so Yuto probably going to be able to find some ways back, and I think the Sprite should be, yep, there we go, readied up, and can go up and just chase out that Sprite Mother.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing. The one thing that Victor can really struggle with is maintaining cards in hand. You're going to be seeing some jank moves, and I say jank in the sense of maybe not what you would normally see for other decks, and I'm talking more Hidden Blade taking out one of your own units in that case. The big reason for that is going to be the fact that you need to draw the 2 cards, and you're okay with giving away a battlefield if it means that you are then able to gain 2 cards off of that, because that's almost more valuable than what it would be to just, hold and give your opponent 2 cards as well.
For sure, no, Yuto was kind of talking there, using the Call to Glory to try and keep one of his units alive. I'm not sure which way the Hex deck went. I believe it was onto the Sprite earlier, so Watchful Secretary actually able to survive that for now. But talking about that hand presence, or what you've got there, Silent Knight, that you're referring to, Yuto is burning through that really quickly. And with the Victor as well, when you're burning through that quickly, you're able to aggress and take those battlefields, but holding does become a bit of an issue. And I really like that Suisei Seki didn't try and accelerate the Kaisa last turn, recognize that, well, Victor's good on the attack, I don't want to leave that out there vulnerable, so instead, I'll play her exhausted this turn, not burn the extra rune, get myself a bit more resource in the next turn, and I'm still confident I can conquer up, get my draw anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be a big tell here on if you do have only a few cards in hand, cool. What am I going to be able to do about it? This is why also with Viktor, you're sometimes running Consult of the Past or things of that nature to hide these cards. So yeah, this could be a big turn as well. If they do decide to take the Dreaming Tree, well then in that case, I'm going to go ahead and use Hidden Blade, draw 2 in this case, and we see a Falling Star coming out. But that's the thing, Falling Star might not feel great. You're going to be taking out maybe, yeah, the Scout and the Sprite Mother would be my guess on targets here. And you're going to be able to draw 3 cards and channel a rune. I mean, come on. That is just great momentum. And it's like, and you had to, you know, sacrifice a Falling Star for that.
On the other hand, I think Suisei is just wanting to make sure that, hey, there's no risk of the hidden card. It could be, as you're talking about, Consult the Past, but the Hidden Blade's the big issue. And with Kai'Sa players, I mean, one of your key things is trying to keep that Kai'Sa alive, keep that card draw generating. So now you've got that safety. The Kai'Sa can move up. Yuuto is completely tapped out as well. There's no real combat tricks or responses that a Viktor can do when he's tapped out. No Sky Splitter to drop down or anything like that.
Yep, and so that'll be the big thing. The other is going to be taken out, the Trifarian War Camp. So Kai'Sa will now be at 5, getting the +1 automatically. And that can be a big difference maker as well. So we'll see how that's going to end up playing here. But still, Viktor's going to need a big turn coming up to get back into this game. Because with 1 unit out on the board against the Kai'Sa deck, that's going to be a little difficult.
Yeah, not to mention, in terms of accelerate options, Viktor, you're looking at pretty much the blue side. Sprite Mother already being used. Don't know if he has another one ready to go. Thousand Tailed coming out this early would feel really, really bad if you wanted to accelerate. There we go. That's one way to deal with it. 6 damage.
Comet just on top of Kai'Sa.
And there we go, the retreat that was being saved. But hey, yeah, then we were talking about Trifarian Warcamp, the +1, sometimes putting you above the threshold to safety. Unfortunately for the Kai'Sa deck, I don't feel like a lot of her cards get out to that safety threshold, because Viktor doesn't do that much damage normally. It's Singularity and Falling Comet, that's about it. Everything else in the lower end of thing, Call of the Weak, Hidden Blade, those are just straight up kill spells. You do not care about the might. And he's also got a lot of little recruits. So Trifarian Warcamp, when you're keeping that Kai'Sa out there, you've got one big unit getting a +1. Viktor's going to be spamming recruits, and often if you're sending 3 up, 4 up to answer that, that's not +1 anymore. That's +3, +4 across that battlefield.
Yeah, and that can be a big difference maker right there. And it looks like Viktor's going to be tapping all out. But I do like how you did also bring up, you know, that the Singularity, for example, because if you do happen to go with like a Noxus Hopeful, a Darius, a Kai'Sa or whatever, and you Singularity that, well, that could be a GG right there, and taking out, you know, a lot of momentum from Kai'Sa, and why you gotta watch out when you are going against Viktor.
And speaking of that Noxus Hopeful, it's sitting right there. Like, they're going to be able to move that up, but the concern is kind of always there. Not to mention the 4. I'm looking at the Faithful Malefactor, I'm looking at the recruits already, and if all those 3 go up to Trifarian, it would be able to answer. Now, the retreat we saw last turn, getting the Kai'Sa back in, it's right back out, accelerated, ready to go in Suisei, able to conquer that, keep that point score going, stay in, you know, neck to neck with Yuuto, and the card draw maybe is going to be enough. I think Suisei, unfortunately, on the odd numbers right now, if the scoring's right. So, depending on how this kind of goes, Yuuto might be able to hit that critical sort of 6-point marker 1 turn faster.
Well, and here's something that you got to be a little careful of as well. We have been seeing Time Warp main decked at this point as well. And so next turn, I mean, even if you happen to hold 1 battlefield at this point, well, cool, I'm going to go ahead and Time Warp. And even gaining a point and getting an extra turn can be a big difference maker here for the Kai'Sa player. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But right now, Viktor has a lot of runes at the ready and a decent amount of cards in hand. So what is he going to be able to do?
You can see Yuuto and Suisei, we're both just calculating right now, because it feels like we're in that end game, like you were talking about. With that Time Warp, suddenly 5 could be enough for you to get there, and for Yuuto to feel comfortable. He's got to clear everything out the board right now. He's got to clear both sides, right? There's 8 runes up for Suisei. You need 10 for the Time Warp, and that won't leave you anything to accelerate. Faithful Manufacturer with the Call to Glory will be enough to win this one out, unless there's Stupefy coming out. Even that would be a trade 1-for-1.
Yep, and then again, another Call to Glory here moving in, and another retreat that is going to be coming out. So this is the Kai'Sa that keeps on swinging. And this could be something you see the following turn. And again, though, that channeling of runes can be such a difference maker, because Kaisa, especially though you have a great legend ability, being able to, you know, take the power cost of one card, that can be a big difference maker. But Riptide Rex coming in for 6 damage is a big difference maker there as well, and another point to be scored.
Yeah, and Yuto now going to just move one recruit up there, get up to that that 6 marker, which is sort of that critical thing. And you're kind of looking over to what Suisei Seki has as well. 1 Nox is hopeful on the field to be able to claim this up. You know the Riptide Rex is there, and there's still potential. Is there only 1 rune up?
Oh, well, there were 2. I think he's debating. Yeah. Maybe trying to go for another Poro, or yep, okay. There's the Poro. So just trying to build up the field. And again, this is scary though, because you could very well anticipate, you know, if I go ahead and am able to take both, well, I mean, there's the chance of the Grand Stratagem, though I don't think he's running it in this deck list, or even just a Thousand Tail at this point is going to be a big difference maker to take back both and take game 1 against Kaisa.
Yeah, and if anything, the Kaiser, her back's up against the wall right now. Suisei Seki, what sort of top deck are you looking for? You're at 5 points. A Thousand Tailed would, plus the Noxus Hopeful, might get you up to 7. But then what do you have to kind of deal with that after? I almost feel like at this point, it's a Cathian Rain or bust with this deck.
It could be, and that's the hard part. And he's not necessarily playing fast, so it's not like he has a clear answer in hand. So really having to think about this. Going 5, that's going to be the accelerated Kaisa again, is going to be recycling the power room for the accelerated cost there as well. So great job there. Going up to 6, being able to draw a card and maybe trying to get an answer. And that's the thing. It's like you have 8 cards in hand as a Kaisa player, but can you build and find the answer for the threat that is on board with the remaining 6 runes and 8 cards in hand?
And now tapping it more. There's only 3 left. Going to accelerate the Legion rear guard there. Going for the trade. We'll be able to take that out. I kind of like that. And then you're able to kind of reinforce the Noxus Hopeful. I do think it's sort of a hold or die situation right now for Suisei Seki, just because of the 6 points that Yuto's already at. And they're going to try and reinforce it and hold that Dreaming Tree side of things.
But that's the thing. It takes 1,000 Tail Watcher to put all of that to rest. That's the big thing. And so even if, I mean, with 3 at the ready, that could be a Void Seeker potentially. It could be, you know, a number of things. It could be Smokescreen and a Hex Tech. There's a lot of different ways that you can do damage here, and just needs to hold 1 battlefield. So can't necessarily just immediately slam down the 1,000 Tail. You got to be a little bit calculated here on how you want to go about it. Now, luckily, the Poro does have Assault, which adds +1 as well. You have a 6 Might, you know, Shark that's on your battlefield. There's a lot going your way, but still, it can all change. And especially when facing a Kaisa, that's possible.
And while Yuto is considering this right now, Sana, I did want to question, is Riptide, I've heard it both ways. Is Riptide Rex a shark or is it a gator?
I mean, are we talking in our world or in League of Legends world? Because that's a big thing. But he has legs. Is he more of a street shark, really, for those of you who grew up in the 90s? I would say maybe closer to that at this point.
Fair enough. We've got the 1,000-tailed Watcher being played as you called Silent, so the -3 coming across board there. 1-1-1 right now. And accelerated, so even with a Void Seeker, you're not taking out that 1,000-tailed Watcher at this point. And I think this is a really good spot for Yuto. I'm trying to think what Suisei Seki has in terms of options as a Kaisa. In fact, Sana, you're telling me you played Kaisa recently, I believe at Vegas was. So do you see any outs that you think, you know, a Kaisa would be able to pull at this position?
Well, and that's going to be the thing is, yeah, I'm assuming you would almost need to go. I mean, at this point, Smokescreen would be probably one of your best options, with maybe a Hex Tech, because that would take care of the 1,000-tail Watcher. But even still, the Poro can still take Trifarium with ease, and then the Riptide Rex will be able to finish off the Dreaming Tree as well. So it looks like even with the answers potentially, it's going to be going Viktor's way. And that's the crazy part. You look, you see 8 cards in hand as the Kaisa, and it's like, and you weren't able to necessarily find the answer. And it's like, well, this is how scary Viktor can be. And maybe he might be a slept on deck.
Agreed, and that's what always puzzled me about the Victor, because I did play some Victor as well, and it always felt like he had so many options. He was versatile. When you're playing up against Kai'Sa, a lot of these games do come down to sort of the 6-7 point mark, where it's just the last turn whether or not you can make the magic happen. But Victor has not been translating well in terms of tournaments and his standings in placings in those situations. We've talked about, Annie, Timo, Set coming up potentially. Victor seems to be falling out of favor, but Yuto here in this game one showing why it was the third most common deck for a lot of those early tournaments.
Yeah, well, and I think that's going to be the big thing. Great win here with the Victor at this point. We're going to be seeing how this game will end up. But again, I think a lot of people potentially were going to these regionals in China with more of a budget version of Victor, not necessarily fully optimized or fully even refined. You're seeing a lot of these deck lists that are being utilized being more, it just feels like they're more prepared for the meta here, at least in the English release of the game. And you're seeing, hey, I'm going to be able to take this to Kai'Sa. I just took game number 1 here versus a Kai'Sa deck, and it was a close game, but still was able to do so all the same. And that is a statement.
Jinx and Yasuo, which is a little bit more niche, but in this tournament, I do believe there is a Jinx deck, and there are Yasuo decks as well, I think.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be the thing, too, because it's like, something that Annie really thrives in is using flashes or even fight or flights or things to move your own units back to protect them to fight another day. And so this is a great option. And then probably game 3, we are going to see another Arena's Greatest coming out from the Victor player as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this ends up going. But I mean, with Victor also being able to go first game 3, if it comes to that, with additionally a point, that can be something to really make this a fast and also very scary game for Kai'Sa.
Okay, it looks like it's going to be Suisei Seki going first. Turn 1, and nothing drops on that. You were just telling me about the strength of a Victor turn 2. With 3 runes up, you can get multiple units up, and that guarantees that you pretty much get a battlefield on the other side. And it's looking like a worst case scenario on an Arena's Greatest battlefield. A faster game and a slower start.
And that's going to be the scary part. And it's like, do you almost want to just use a falling star at this point to go ahead and try to use things? But there we are, able to build it. So the 5th card in this case, or the 6th card, sorry, was actually going to be the Ravenbloom student. So you were that close to starting pretty well off, and now this is going to be something scary. But still, at least Noxus Hopeful is out on the field. That 4 might can be really scary this early game, and it'll be interesting to see what Victor is able to do to deal with these threats.
Yeah, and Call of the Week not going to be able to take out the Noxus Hopeful necessarily because the Ravenbloom exists. Ravenbloom, another unit that can get scary in and of itself, especially with the amount of spells that Kai'Sa likes to run. So that's kind of the 2 points already picked up by Yuto. Reminder, because of the Arena's Greatest, Yuto's already at 3. It does kind of sort of change the magic breakpoints. Trying to hit that 6 is not as simple as just grabbing 2 battlefields 3 turns in a row. There you can kind of just off one of them and get the edge there a little bit. So we'll see if that ends up being played out. There's all the runes ready for Yuto. He played nothing in his turn, Sana. He's definitely got combat tricks, because with that Victor, if you don't see it tapped, you know that they're holding to try and get those runes ready.
Yeah, and we've already seen Call to Glories, how powerful that could be in this matchup as well. But not only that, you could be expecting almost an Imperial Decree potentially, that any damage at this point would be removing a unit from the battlefield. And so here we go with 3 being tapped and a Call to Glory coming out to add +3. But still, there's a lot of runes at the ready on the Kai'Sa side as well, and Ravenbloom gets +1 for each spell. So we'll see if that's actually going to be enough to be activated.
Okay, so keeping our eyes out, it's going to be 3 spells to keep the Ravenbloom alive, 2 in order to be able to match. There we go. Stupefy certainly helps matters, and just like that, it's going to be 3 and 3, but I don't think Suisei Seki just wants to trade. I'm wondering if there's another spell to come out, maybe a Hextech Ray or something that can take out on the Valmos side. 2 for 1, if you will.
Yep, but still, that is a lot of utility that is now being used here in that case. And so not only did you have to, you at least are able to save the Ravenbloom student at least, but still, this is tough because you had to use a Stupefy that at least replaces itself, but then also a Hextech Ray. But it looks like the Hextech Ray is going to be attacking into the adjacent battlefield at this point. And then at that point, Student will be taking this battlefield.
Okay, so you see Seki tapping out to get the Kaisa on the board. Noxus Hopeful up to the Balmor as we were expecting. And I kind of like the idea of the Noxus Hopeful there. As you mentioned, the 4 Might is kind of strong, especially in this early game. It's enough to kind of beat the Sprite token that Sprite Mother can generate. So it's not an easy steal away. If you're going to leave a unit at the Balmor's lair, might as well be a high base Might one that can actually hold it.
Yep. And this is tough though, because a tapped out Kaisa is something that you love to see. Now, of course, you would love to see that with a few more units back in base, but still going up now to 7. That is going to be interesting. So you could even almost spend a turn. You're okay almost with your opponent, not necessarily, but you're okay with your opponent going up to 5 if you're able to build up the backfield. But then you do have to worry about like an Acathian Rain or something just devastating the board. But Call of the Week is going to be a good start, probably taking out the Student in that case if I had to guess.
Yep, I mean, like we talked about, Noxus Hopeful sitting at Valmor feels really comfortable right now. You also don't want to have to send your Kaisa up there to conquer and get the draw. So just open up the arena's greatest and neutral battlefield and let her kind of go there. For now, Yuto tapping 5. And okay, so yeah, that part of that was to pay for the cost of the Call of the Week. There's your Sprite token coming through. And we're looking for that and Stupefy, perhaps?
But no, going to be going in. Yeah, looking like a Stupefy at that point to go down to 3/3 and drawing a card. And you're, of course, going to have a Sprite Mother in the backfield. But still, that is going to be something to really slow down. Because one thing that Kaisa loves to thrive on is going to be cards in hand. But only having 5 cards in hand at the start of this next turn, I mean, that could really start to make an impact, especially if a lot of them are spell removal, but you don't necessarily have a whole lot. Still, Kaisa being able to draw on Conquer is going to help a lot.
Yeah, with 6 improve matter or something, that extra card maybe what you need to get a unit up there. Yeah, we saw the Legion Rearguard last game, accelerated, pretty cheap, 2 cost base, 1 more for the accelerate. That could kind of get up there, get you up to potentially that 6 points on the arena's greatest. Instead, it's a Darius coming out. They've put it in the ready state, but I'm assuming they've got a second card to actually ready it. There we go. Using the Darius Cleave combo already. That's 10 might that you kind of just use to score an extra point and leaving the Darius vulnerable with 5 right there.
And that's the scary part, but still, I mean, you at least have the Sprite Mother, which can go ahead and do a lot on the board. You've already seen what Viktor was able to do, but at the same time, this is scary because Viktor was not necessarily able to do Viktor things as successfully as he was able to in Game 1. And this is even without a lot of the removal that Kaisa is able to throw down in this case, too. And so, I mean, we haven't even seen necessarily a falling star in this game. Otherwise, it would probably just be over. And so this is going to be a big turn for Viktor, and he needs to make an impact. Otherwise, this game is as good as over, and we're going into Game 3.
And on Sunday, there's a decent chance that Falling Star is in the hands of Suisei Seki. They're ready to go. It just wasn't enough targets for them to want to use it prior to this. Now, that's the Sprite Mother already being used with the token to accelerate. Sprite Mother by herself isn't strong enough. Is there another Sprite Mother to come through with another token to go? Hidden Blade being used. And I feel like this gets dicey. You talked a little bit about this, Silent Night, to me prior. The Hidden Blade, it feels a bit wonky. Giving those extra cards over, and you're talking about the strength of card draw and the options it gives you. 2 Hidden Blades coming out now. Suisei Seki gonna have a ton of options to be able to play with.
Yeah, and I think that was still a good course of action. I'm a little bit more scared about dealing with a 7 Might Darius coming out than with a 5 or 4 Might Kaisa in that case. And so still a great option, but still a Hextech Ray coming out to take care of the Sprite Mother. That is going to be really slowing down this Viktor, especially with 1 card in hand and a Soaring Scout on board. So, man, still, at least you're able to get 2 units out, but a Kaisa that's accelerated can get a lot of utility here.
And I'm getting a little bit concerned for Yuto. You've got 2 units, but they're both 1 might apiece. Neither of them can really deal with that Kaisa on their own. And the economy of Yuto here. He's down to 5 runes. He had to burn a lot last turn to make that happen with all those hidden blades. I think Suisei with the point lead as well, which is very comfortable. Sitting pretty right now in terms of how he wants to play the rest of this out. Can just kind of set up the board. Nope, just went for the Darius, and that's game. Oh no, one more, sorry.
One more, but still, this is a very difficult board. 2 cards in hand with 7 runes, so a couple of options still to be had, but nope, looks like it's gonna be a scoop. And we are going into game number 3, and so just a little bit too much momentum for the Kai'Sa, and Viktor has fallen in game number 2.
I'm a little bit concerned if we are looking at for the Viktor to go wide and kind of develop that board a little bit, like you were talking about, Silent, before, taking advantage of those big finishers like the Thousand-Tailed. Well, you mentioned that Arena's Greatest is probably the last arena we see come through for Yuto, since he's already played Trifarian and Valmos. So this is still going to be a very fast game, potentially going into this game 3, and maybe Yuto doesn't have enough time to develop the board. He's out of options, right? It's game 3, you've got to use that battlefield, and there was a reason why he didn't want to use it in games 1 and games 2.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing, and it's going to be, can you get a good start? Now, luckily with Kai'Sa, we're at least seeing 2 cards that are being recycled at this point in the mulligan. So that's a good start, but still only able to make a 1 might unit. At least it's something, but still that can hurt.
I'm not quite sure what Suisei is actually running for their battlefield. I think it's a little bit bugged out right now on
it looks like Reaver's
Row.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. There we go. Well, we know. So chat, y'all know now. It's Reaver's Row that he's sitting on right there. And honestly, because he wasn't able to get any units out again on turn 1. And what are the odds of that, Sana? The fact that a Kai'Sa 3 energy up couldn't get a unit down, and against the Viktor, that's kind of 2 free turns where he gets to develop that board, gets to get some of those early units out. The bug looks like it's eating the units as well. So we can't see the battlefield, and we couldn't see the recruit that went up.
So just use your imagination, if you will, on seeing what is here. It could be, or just if you really want a surprise on what these battlefields are going to do. But it looks like it might even be bugged out for them as well.
Yeah.
And so they're playing them kind of on the edge to see things in this case. And we have a Kai'Sa that's then able to move in and draw a card. And man, it could be anyone's game at this point.
And it feels a little bit like desperation from Suisei. A lot of times you'll see Kai'Sa players, they'll play the Kai'Sa, but they'll often want some sort of protection to kind of keep it alive. And when you're just playing it out like that, it's the only unit there. There's just so many options. It could have been a Call of Meek, it could have been a Hidden Blade, but in this case, it's going to be another Fallen Star dropping on the Kai'Sa, Yuto special, if you will, since we saw it in game 1.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then, of course, you're with Viktor so often, you are going to be having 1 leftover rune, and he is able to capitalize on that so much to just even add another unit. So in your hand, you're going to be able to deal with a lot of the threats on board. And then, hey, I am going to also be able to create even just a 1 might unit, but it can make an impact.
Yeah, and it only takes 1 might to capture a battlefield. If there's no units for you to compete against, if there's no threat to take it out, then 1 might's kind of all you need. Now, Suisei does have 6 runes up, so hopefully at this point, it's enough to get pretty much everything except for a Thousand-Tailed Watcher onto the board. So I am expecting Suisei to get units out there. Using the Falling Star for now to just kind of remove these threats, take things out, try and slow down the scoring a little bit of Yuto, and still 4 runes. That's enough for everything except for Thousand-Tailed and Darius at this point.
Yeah, and that could be interesting. And so I'm going to be curious to see if we're trying to go ahead and develop our battlefield. We're going to be seeing a Ravenbloom student and a Poro coming out, so it looks like we are going to be developing the backfield. Now, this is also giving the chance for a Viktor to almost do the same. We can go ahead and get a point, go up 4-2 at that, and then still be able to build up our backfield for a big push going up to, potentially 6 or 7 at that point as well. And so Kai'Sa is tapped out. You don't have to worry about Hextech Ray or anything like that. But do you still want to extend the one very dizzy, recruit at this point?
Isn't that the point of the Glorious Evolution? That they didn't get sick, or, they were cured of everything, they don't fall sick, they wouldn't get dizzy anymore? It's the loading screen. That's Yuto's thought process right now. But it looks like it stopped. So maybe they've come to an actual conclusion. Going back to your point, though, Silent Knight, about sort of trying to set up the board here. Yuto is up a point as well, and it should be an easy point for this recruit to go up. If he goes to Reaver's Row, he can always pull it back, so he might not even lose it. Or if you try and take it out with a spell, that's more resources that Suisei Seki has to use. But interestingly enough, went for the arena's greatest side of it. So what is Yuto thinking of in terms of trying to maybe capture this and take an advantage? Vanguard Attendant.
Wow, interesting. That's not something you see very often.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I've seen that actually in competitive play. I've seen it in my local Nexus nights, but
I mean, hey, there you go. I mean, it got you a point. You're able to put a Poro back into the battlefield as well. That's going to be a great option. And that's now a bit of a wall. Now, you do have to worry about, of the 6 cards in hand, do you have a Darius that could potentially go ahead and take this over? Potentially, but still, this is going back and forth. And with being at 6, Viktor very well could just go ahead and say, hey, here's my 1,000 tail. Both go in. I win. So we'll see what ends up happening here.
And I really like this Vanguard Attendant. It's not something we see a lot because of the costs to play it, right? 6 energy, 1 power cost, and it's only 5 might. And I feel like this is something Yuto might have sideboarded in going to this matchup, knowing that he was going to be running the arena's greatest, knowing how quick this matchup has been so far with constant scoring. The 5 points puts him in a great spot too, because now the Poro and Ravenbloom together, it's only 4. You need a spell to kind of get it over the hump, and Falling Star might just be that spell. Both instances actually being used on Vanguard Attendant. Didn't want to give Yuto a chance to be able to pull it back to safety.
Yep, and there we do have the Darius at that point, but that is again a tight, tapped out Kaisa here going into this next turn. That is going to be a big deal. Yes, you're going to be able to go up to 4. Great, good for you. But can you now deal with the threats that Viktor could potentially dish out?
Yeah, and Viktor going to be sitting on 9 runes next turn. That's more than enough to pull in a 1,000-tailed Watcher. If he has it, that's pretty much game done at that point. The spread coming across, though, it looks like the Darius sitting on the arena's greatest. They're going to stack to the Ravenbloom, and the Pouty Poro going to sit on the Reaver's Row in exchange. That's 4 might on one side, 5 on the other. No options left for Suisei Seki, and you're just sat there praying right now that Yuzo break this hand.
Yep, and that's going to be the thing, though, because even just 1,000 Tail Watcher, that's 2, so the Poro can then go over with the Soul +1 at 3, you know, and it's like, and then Darius is just gone at that point, so, but he's not necessarily playing just yet. He's still doing math, counting things around, and things of that nature, so he might not have the 1,000 Tail Watcher in those 6 cards in hand, and if not, ooh, that's scary.
It is. It buys that much more time for Suisei Seki. One more turn, one more chance to be able to turn things around. But all Yuto needs to do right now, because he's up ahead in points, I believe he's 2 points up on Suisei Seki right now, he can afford to just take this turn to build his board instead if he wants to. And Viktor on the offense is a lot stronger. We're talking about how both these decks play kind of aggro, and they're better attacking. Holding is a whole different game. With Viktor, you've got things like Grand Stratagem. Singularity can come through, and Imperial Decree is something we've yet to see. There you go. There's the Singularity, 6 damage up. That's enough. That's Darius gone. That's a 2 might gone. You've got 1 2 might left. Oh, but they don't have the Accelerate. So you can take one side.
But that's the sad part, because if they had like a Sprite Mother in hand or anything like that as well, but still, you're getting to that 7 points. You could potentially build a couple of units in the backfield. You could go a 2 cost and a 1 might with the Viktor Legend ability, and then try to say, hey, next turn, I'm going to be going again. So we'll see what ends up happening. The turn is passed, though, with 3 runes at the ready. So, I mean, it could be another Call to Glory.
Yeah, first we say Seki, 7 runes up and available. That's enough for the Darius Cleave combo. That would be massive overkill. But if you're looking for an Accelerate, Kaisa only has so many options. Now, I don't know if Suisei Seki is running a second Kaisa Survivor. I know that most Kaisa decks have been just kind of running 1 and just trying to protect it with the retreats. But at least when Kaisa was first, taken off at the beginning, people were running 2, 3 copies of that, and not just with the card draw, but the Accelerate's a really strong tool as well. I'm wondering if Suisei Seki has a second copy potentially available trying to Accelerate.
Yeah, and that would be a big tell right there. I mean, a lot of runes at the ready, and Reaver's Row even just pushing back, not even gonna risk
Wow.
that with a Falling Star to really make sure that you do not have the units. That is a sacrifice, but could that be paying dividends enough to get this round 2 win? There is a huge detriment in points, at least going from 7 to 5. That doesn't seem like a lot, but when it is a Viktor deck that you're going against, that can be a mountain to climb.
Yeah, and that 5 feels so unfortunate too, because unless you hit, a time warp, you're kind of just sat there giving one extra turn, right? Yuto knows he's got that 1 turn leeway. That was the 3 bite, I think, that he was, or the 3 energy that he was waiting for Silent Night with the Shen, and now he's going to use it at reaction speed into his base to get an extra unit out that will be readied on the next turn. He still needs something else if he's looking for that Conquer, though. 7 will give you the draw, but not quite the win.
Nope, not yet, but still, top deck can be strong here. We'll see if this is going to be able to get the win here, but still, it looks like some reinforcements are going to be coming out with 1 rune still floating. That could be a Hextech Ray, but only 2 cards in hand for Kaisa right now.
Okay, shout out to Plus for hovering to show us what's in that hidden zone right there. New battlefield dropped, set 2.5. Bandle City lets you hide an extra card. Bandle Country apparently just hides all the damn cards.
Yeah. So this is going to be difficult, though. There's not necessarily a whole lot that you can go for. You could then go ahead and try to completely reinforce a battlefield. You could go to Arena's Greatest and put Shin there with Viktor and like maybe a couple units in that case, and just say, if you have it, great. If not, here we go. But this is tough. 8 though at the ready, so even a Thousand Tail, but it's looking like that's still not in hand.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation for both these players right now, because the same risk applies for Yuto. If he tries to just hold one side and reinforce it with as many units as possible, well, what happens is Suisei draws the Thousand Tail. Right at that point, just accelerate it, goes and crashes. Now, Yuto still has other options. We talk about Viktor on the offense. Defensively, though, hidden cards like Hidden Blade, Stupefy to a much lesser extent. That's often more for card draw or for the early game, or Call to Glory. But Riptide Rex coming out, taking out 1 unit there. So I believe there's still 1 more in that hidden field. I don't recall if that one.
Yeah, there should be 1 more there, and then 1 in the
we go.
backfield as well. The 1 might isn't necessarily going to make a huge difference here, though it very well could if there is a Thousand Tail Watcher, because that'd be -3 for Shin. So yeah, it looks like it is going to be moved there. Good choice in that case, because the +2 when defending activates after the Thousand Tail comes in as well. So it would be a total of 3 in that case, if I'm doing that correctly.
Yep, sounds about right. And it's got the tank as well, so you'd have to kind of bust through that. That would give it 3, 4, 5. The top deck? Was it the top deck, or did Suisei have it the entire time?
But now it's time to do some math. We'll see if this is enough. But again, Shin's defensive ability should activate, so that is going to be 7 to 7, and if there is a Stupefy in hand, that is going to be game.
Does Yuto have it? He's thinking about it. No, he does not.
That's going to be a straight trade.
Wow, and that's super rough for the Viktor as well, because again, we keep talking about the accelerates and whatnot, but yeah, he doesn't have anything once again. A pullback on the Pouty Poro from Suisei at the 6 points. So Suisei potentially looking to set up the aggressive take, leaving everything up and banking that, hey, you're not going to draw 2 Sprite Mothers. You're not going to get 2 things that have Accelerate and can go in. And frankly, I think it's a safe bet. After all, we didn't see a Sprite Mother last turn when Yuto needed it. So I think it's fine to say that, okay, you'll draw 1. At best, maybe you Sprite Mother into Hidden Blade on Sprite Mother into another Sprite Mother. But at that point, you're really looking out for hope and prayer.
Yep, but still, that 7th point will allow you to draw an additional card, which is going to be very helpful as well. So the Sprite Mother can still come in. Tapped out Kaisa again, so at least that's going to be in Reaver's Row. That's going to take it out, back it out, but still being able to draw a card. You just need 1 more Sprite. Is that found?
Is it? It is!
There we go. Getting into the battlefield to get the 8th point. And a great showing from Viktor and Kaisa. What a match.